Okay. That's it as well. These mics are live, just FYI. Thank you.
Hello on the live stream. You're so prompt if you're here. Shabbat shalom.
No surprise. Just nice to see. That was a nice to see you. Actually. Good to see you.
Sounds good. You okay?
Yeah, just keep going. Too fancy.
You jinxed me.
What key was I playing in? Two?
Capo 3.
Capo 3?
C shapes.
There you go, baby.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Shabbat Shalom! We are going to begin tonight with a nigun. It is a melody that you have never heard before, but it is a very simple melody, and I invite you to join me in singing when you feel comfortable. La 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 la. simple words. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Try saying that with me. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. And you already know the tune. Ready? Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. It is great to see everybody tonight. We're going to take a moment and introduce ourselves. So turn to those in front of you, next to you, behind you. Hopefully you're going to make a new connection, perhaps, or an old connection. It's okay. Introduce yourselves so we're not bringing strangers.
This is also the end.
We turn to page 2. We turn to page 2 and we light our Shabbat candles. I know this is not the garden, but we're going for a garden themed, so.
In the middle of page 2, as Rabbi lights the candles, I invite you all to join me in singing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. On page 10 at the top of the page, words of welcome. You've spoken words of welcome already, but now it's time to sing them with these words from Psalms. Hine ma tov, how good it is for us all to be together. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 On page 24 of your prayer books, we turn to the words of Shalom Aleichem, where we imagined that ministering angels accompany us on Shabbat, and we greet them with these words and this melody. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharit, Malachei Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Orachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzechem v'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzechem v'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Turn to page 22. Many, many moons ago, when I was serving Temple Emmanuel in Denver, Colorado, I worked with a cantorial soloist whose name was Steve Brodsky. More than a cantorial soloist, he's a great Jewish musician, and they have a band named Sababa, and he did a lot of composing in the office next to me, and so I would be sitting working on Divrei Torah or what have you, and I would hear this beautiful music coming. And this was a setting that he wrote to Psalm 92. It's the one that we started with the Nigun, and Come Let Us Sing. And when he taught me this, he explained to me I'm self-taught on the guitar and a little waltz. I don't have a music background, so will always defer. But he said, no, it's a waltz. And what he did is he painted the image in my mind as we're preparing to do L'Chadodi, which is welcoming the Sabbath bride into our midst, we're waltzing with the Sabbath bride as we begin to prepare ourselves for Shabbat. And you'll notice at the bottom of the page that there's a note that in the Talmud, the rabbis refer to this psalm as a longed-for future when every day will be like Shabbat. That's the goal. Every day is perfect. Every day is whole. And of course, we're not there yet. And we're going to talk about our journeys a little bit, because not every day of our journey has been Shabbat, but every day of our journey has shaped who we are today. So I want you, as we're beginning to think about this, think about your journeys. What led you here? What have been the days that have felt like Shabbat? Perhaps the days that have not felt like Shabbat, but that have influenced us nonetheless. So we continue on page 22. We're going to do the Nigun again, the English. We're going to introduce the top two lines in Hebrew, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. We'll do that to the exact same melody, and then Kenny and I will do the next two lines with a different melody, and then we'll come back to the familiar melody. So please join on.
Mizmor Shir Yom
Shabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'zamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'zamer l'shimcha elyon. Come, let us sing the song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Lai da 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 da, yeah da 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 da. Lai da 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 da, da 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 da.
We turn backwards in our prayer book to page 20 as we prepare to sing Lecha Dodi, where we are taught that we are to be as happy as we would be at a wedding. And on this Shabbat, you might imagine that you are as happy as me to have a guitar-playing buddy up here on the bima. So we'll sing the refrain as well as verses 1, 2, and 9. Page 20. Lecha Dodi. Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha Ishmi'anu el ha'yuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem ol tiferet v'tfilah Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Mekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Mekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki hi mekor haberacha Merosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehila Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Mekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Mekabela Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha uv'tzola Toch emunei am segula Boi chala Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Mekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Mekabela.
Page 29. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There's one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the songs of her people. There's one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest of perfection. And there is the one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. We rise in body or spirit for our call to worship, and we say together, Nivarech, let us bless.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Yalalai lai lai, 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 yalalai lai lai. On page 34 of our prayer books, we turn now to our prayer of oneness as we sing together the words of Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please be seated.
7:30 a.m., we would all have to be standing around what we called the old pool, which was an actual old pool, the concrete, but it was filled in. So it was this grassy area with still the concrete from the pool, and we called that the old pool. And the whole camp would gather there, and we would always begin by singing, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. And then that would kind of wake us up a little bit. And then we would sing the Dan Nichols Na-Na song, Na, 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 which is also Fat Albert, if that genre. All right. So the counselors would say, hey. So that was formative experiences growing up at Goldman Union Camp Institute in Zionsville, Indiana, which is not all that far from here. And often one of the people who I would see either standing next to me in my cabin or across the way, or eventually playing Shema Yisrael was Alan Goodis, because he and I went to camp together. And then eventually, in the middle of between the 10th and 11th grade year, there was no camp opportunity. They wanted everybody to go to Israel, so I went to Israel with Nifty in Israel. We had a chartered 747. We took a boat from Athens to Haifa and reenacted the Exodus. It took 3 days, even though it doesn't actually take 3 days. I don't recommend it on that particular boat, but I hear it's nice otherwise. And one of the people who was on that boat with me in my group was Missy Bell, and that's where I met Missy, was on my Nifty in Israel trip. Again, all roads lead to Sukkot Shalom for me. So growing up at summer camp was a really important moment of my life. It was my mom had gone to a Jew-ish summer camp. In the Northeast, there's a lot of Jew-ish camps that are not Jewish, but enough Jews go there that maybe they'll say a prayer on Friday night. And that was just what she did every single summer. And that was such an important moment for her that she wanted me to have the same. So I also went to summer camp. And I went to this particular summer camp because my rabbi, Rabbi Ben Kamen at the time of blessed memory, he went to that camp. And my mom said, "Don't you want to go with him?" And I said, "Sure." And some of my friends from that summer are still my very best friends to this day. So fast forward many years after, and this past Thursday, I walked into Azrui, Olensang Ruby Institute in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin for the first time. And not only was it my first time at Azrui, but it was my first time ever being in Wisconsin. How? I don't totally know, but I've been to Minnesota. I don't know how I missed Wisconsin, but it was beautiful. And what was amazing is, so we walk into the camp with Maggie and Aiden. Maggie's 5.5, Aiden's 4. We walk into the office. But before we even got in the office, we were bombarded with people from every stage of our lives. So first, somebody came up to me. His name is Jonathan Lev, and he's the director of the JCC in Boulder, Colorado. And I know him from when I worked in Nifty in 2005, but then I knew him in Colorado. And he was there because his wife was the camp nurse, and he had sent his kids there for the summer. And then somebody came running across a field, screaming, "Jenny Topolowski," which is Jenny's maiden name, not knowing, because we registered as Jenny Immerman, not knowing who was coming. And it was somebody who she had grown up with in Champaign, not even Azrui. And all of a sudden, all these other people came out of the woodwork, including a friend that we had in Denver who just happened to be back in Chicago and decided to work at Azrui for the summer. And it was these perfect touch. It wasn't a bookend. It was an insertion, because we have a lot more camp to go. But I've only spent 4 summers of my life not at Jewish summer camp. I went to Annisfield, the JCC camp growing up. I went to Gucci, and I worked all through those summers until 2004. When I worked for Nifty, I went to Kutz of blessed memory, the teen leadership camp, for 2 summers. I went to Israel, and then I came back and I worked at the URJ camp Carlsman in Seattle, Washington for a summer. I then worked at this outdoor teen adventure camp called Adama Adventures for 2 summers that was based out of Atlanta, doing sea kayaking and hiking and backpacking and rafting. And that was with teens, and that was unbelievable, and exposing them to Judaism through trekking. And then when I was a rabbi in Denver, the synagogue owned Schwader Camp, which is up in the mountains at 10,000 feet. And so I would go and spend a significant part of my summers there every summer. And then I had little kids, and of course COVID. And so I'm so excited to get to go back to Azrui next summer on faculty for 2 weeks, and to bring my kids and participate in the day camp. And while I was there, I got to meet 3 of our Sukkot Shalom's kids who are there at Azrui. So that's a little bit of my life through the lens of Jewish summer camp. So why do I tell you all of this, particularly on this evening? One is, it's only week 2, and I thought you might want to get to know me better. The other is, this week's Torah portion is Matot Maseh, and Maseh means journey in Hebrew. Masa is a journey, and the reason the Torah portions have their names is it's the first significant word in the Torah portion. But this one also foretells what the Torah portion is about, because there are many, many verses, and it's the chronological journey of the Israelites in the desert. They're now standing, the last verse of that is, they're standing on the steps of Jericho overlooking the Jordan River. They are about to cross into the river, but unfortunately, we're going to turn the page in Deuteronomy and retell the story all over again. So we don't get to cross into the promised land quite yet. And so it goes with many of our lives. We're always on the precipice, and then we find another adventure. So I wanted you to turn to each other for a moment. Maybe somebody who didn't come with you, whose journey you don't know intimately. It's okay if that's too uncomfortable. You're welcome to turn to the person with you. Share a significant moment of your journey. I'm going to give you 4 to 5 minutes. What was the significant moment of your journey that shaped who you are in some form or fashion today? Go ahead. So, of course, we could keep talking all night long. This is going to wrap up really nicely because one of the places that we're ultimately trying to get to is the garden, Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. But we're here, which is nice because we're in the Noah's Ark and we're on, which is how I feel about the sanctuary, on this journey. And we're going to continue to share these stories. It's the sharing of the stories and the sharing of moments that both continue to remind us who we are and how we got here, but also that bind us together as a sacred community. And the moment in the service that we celebrate, that transformative moment in the Israelites' journey, is the Mi Chamocha prayer. It's on a page. On page 40, when the Israelites got to the other side of the sea after it had parted, and they realized that they were no longer slaves, the Egyptian army perished in the sea, and they said, "We are free." wow, look at these miracles that we have endured. And then they begin to turn their heads and see that they have the rest of the journey in front of them as well. Page 40.
Yai lai 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 la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 la lai la lai lai. Yai lai 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 la lai. Yai lai 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 la lai la lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefelech. Nora tehilot osefelech. Page 42. And speaking of all roads lead to Sukkot Shalom, as Rabbi Immerman and Rabbi Tickbrill and I last week were planning our very first service together as a team, we were of course discussing what liturgy to include, and Rabbi Immerman was asking, what melodies does Sukkot Shalom know? And I think we all heard him speak last week about singing the Hashkivenu prayer to his children to sing them to sleep. And he said, I wonder if you've heard this melody. Hashkivenu Adonai Elohim. And I said, of course we know that melody. That's one of our favorites. And last week we opted instead, given the momentous occasion, to offer the national anthem of Sukkot Shalom, a different musical setting of the Hashkivenu. But on the off chance your children are listening tonight, thought we might sing them off to sleep with the lullaby of our people. Page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'chamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
Psalm 92 invites us to think about every day being like Shabbat. And one of the distinctions between Shabbat and our liturgy, our prayers, is that we don't ask for things. Not everybody has everything that they need on Shabbat, but we even take a break from asking God to provide us certain things on Shabbat, with two exceptions. One is we always ask for healing, and then we always ask for peace, the shalom, this wholeness, this perfection in our world. And our tefillah prayer on page 46 is the prayer in which during the week we ask God for a litany of things, for shelter and sustenance and peace and guidance and wisdom and righteousness and banishment of evil. But on Shabbat we take a break. And we ask only for peace and healing in our lives. We're going to begin our Amidah together on page 46, and then I invite you to continue your own prayers silently with either the words of a prayer book or the words of your heart. And I invite you to rise. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Fiagi Tegilatecha Turn to page 253 for our prayer of healing on the Shabbat, or Mishaberach prayer in the middle of the page. In this Shabbat, we are specifically thinking of Anne Weaver for a healing prayer, who has asked that her name be read aloud. I invite you in a cacophony of names, if you want to share the name of somebody you know, a loved one who is in need of a healing prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Mekor Refuah, blessed are you, Adonai, source of our healing. Yisheberach Haotenu Mekor habracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yisheberach Imotenu Mekor habracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated.
On page 62 in your prayer books, we follow our prayer for healing with a communal prayer for peace with the words of Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimroba, Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imu. Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh
This begins to draw near to its conclusion, we always take a moment and think about those who are no longer with us. If you're observing, we think about those who have died in recent weeks and also those whose yahrzeit, the yearly anniversary of their death, falls on the Shabbat. We remember Alan Press, Sally Siegel, Howard Siegel, Herman Siegel, Elaine Blassing, Ellen Hirsch, Gary Gomberg, Bennett Carter, Ernestine Solub, Yvette Zells, Francis Singerman, Norman Pakowitz, Paul Buchholz, Dr. Marvin Miller, David Fenner Kelly, Philip Herman, James Shine Crown, Larry Gordon, and Dan Gordon. Is there anybody else for whom you are saying Mourner's Kaddish this evening? Zichronam Livracha, may their memories forever be a blessing. We rise in solidarity with those who are in mourning and for those who have no one left to say Kaddish for them as we turn to page 294 for our ancient words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah b'alma divrach hirotei v'amlich malchutei b'chayachon u'b'yom echon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom b'mroma hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Please be seated. Just a couple of brief announcements before we conclude our service. On July 18th, that is this Tuesday, right there, kitty corner from the building, we will be having a playground meetup. That really is for anybody of any age. We will you laugh, but I'm not kidding. It really is. You're all invited. We will have ice cream, which again, anyone of any age I think enjoys. But we do, of course, encourage you, given that it is a playground, to bring any young children in your life that may enjoy playing on the playground and eating ice cream. I think your kids are going to be there. Is that correct?
My kids will be there.
It'll be a great chance to meet Rabbi Immerman's children. As well, July 21st, next week, of course, weather permitting, we will be down at Gilson Beach, 6 p.m. In the covered shelter. A map for both parking as well as the location of the shelter can be found on the Sukkot Shalom website and will be emailed out to you next week. A note for those of you joining us online that we will not be streaming that service. So that service is in person only, 6 p.m. at Gilson Beach next week. And then as well, I just wanted to put it on everybody's radar, July 29th, the Wilmette Farmers Market, Saturday morning. Again, some members of the Sukkot Shalom staff, I think both of us, as well as maybe the rest of the Sukkot Shalom staff, now that I'm thinking of it, will be at the Wilmette Farmers Market at 9 a.m. We'll all take our time getting some goodies and then enjoy a little bit of time together, socializing as well. Wishing you all a Shabbat of peace and rest. I think we ought to end the way we started by singing, "Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat." And may I just say, for those of you in attendance this evening, Kol HaKavod, you sound really, really nice, and I really, really mean it. Let's end the way we started with some singing. song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing, a song of Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please join us in the foyer for Oneg Shabbat. It's great. It's fantastic.